What's the number one challenge for businesses today?
Workforce development, attracting, recruiting, and retaining people.
And that's why we created this podcast, designed for the frustrated CEO, the under-resourced recruiter, or the overworked manager, to give you the tools to tackle those WTF moments.
It's time to open another workforce therapy file.
I don't know why. Molley, I know that you're supposed to open this episode, and Jim, feel free to leave this in. Friends, we are here to interview our amazing guest, but we also started this episode with big smiles so that the picture would be natural, and for some reason that filled me with joy and made me chuckle. So, Molley, handing it back to you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Absolutely.
So, Eric, we greatly appreciate you coming on our show today, and just the fun that we've already had. I can only imagine what the rest of the show is going to be like. So,
Absolutely.
we are thankful that you're here. So, today with us on the Workforce Therapy Files, we have Eric Williamson, and we are so glad that you are here and agreed to meet with us yet again for a bit more information about you and what it is that you do, and how you foresee this year turning out for you and how you're going to be able to help. So we got a lot of information to cover in a short amount of time, and hopefully we'll get to everything and you will feel fulfilled even more than you already have.
Hey, I'm still smiling. So I'm enjoying this. I'm looking forward to it as well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Eric, a really softball question just to kick off this discussion. I'm going to ask the group, raise your hand if you've written a book. Look at that! I'm starting to feel like I'm in the wrong room. This is the kind of room I like to be in, though. I think it's amazing when people have all of these amazing experiences and they take time to put pen to paper. I know that you probably didn't scribe this in a journal, but I guess my point is that you took time to take your experiences, and I think your topic is incredible. So tell us, what's the name of that book?
So the book that I published is called How to Work with Jerks. It's getting stuff done with people you can't stand.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that stuff, it's, when we talk about stuff, honestly, we're talking about, the other word. But it's a no nonsense, practical book that helps people solve a pervasive issue that a lot of us can relate to. I mean, how many of us, you talked about raising your hands, how many of us have ever worked with a jerk? I'll raise my hand. How many of us have ever been called a jerk? I'll raise my hand again. And so it solves that problem for people who have difficulty building relationships or managing conflict, or achieving any type of goal that requires you to interact with other people. And being an expert jerk who turned jerk expert, such as myself, that's one of the reasons why I wrote it. A lot of people, they're shocked when they say, hey, you've been a jerk. I'm like, yeah, don't let the smile fool you. I've been a jerk plenty of times. But the worst part is when I didn't know I was that jerk. And I realized at the last moment where I was this close to getting fired from my job that I had to take a course on how to work better with people and how to recognize my own emotions. And all that culminated into saying, you know what if I could help other people out with a similar situation? Because all of my friends, not all of them, but a lot of my friends, they were a lot smarter than me, more talented than me. But I would hear from them all the time about how they were leaving their jobs because they couldn't get along with, their boss, or they didn't like the people that they worked with. And I remember thinking, all this talent, all this skill and expertise, and you're gonna leave your job because you can't get along with someone else. And then when that almost happened to me, when I was almost forced out, I said, you know what? That's the common denominator, the inability to work with other people. And if I was able to help at least try to solve that problem to keep people from having to move left and right to different jobs, avoiding those conversations, then I think it would help so many people stay at that job, retain it, but most importantly, get a better skill set that they can use anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what helped me, what motivated me to write that book.
It's almost like you don't have to assume that fight and flight are your only options.
Exactly. there's
Yeah.
other options that you can take that you don't have to risk losing your job or making a situation worse if you have these skill sets at hand.
Well, just with the fun of alliteration, you also can't assume that somebody's going to fire them,
Yeah,
right? Because
very true.
sometimes the retention of the productive jerk is a very real thing, right?
Yeah.
That's that question where you're in a room with some of your coworkers, your colleagues, you say, how the heck did this person, why is this person still working here? How the heck did this person still get, get this job? Well, it's because sometimes that leader, they refuse to do something about it or they didn't know how to deal with it. And that's exactly why we have these issues where sometimes jerks get fired, rightfully so, but then other jerks get hired to replace them. And why does that vicious cycle continue to perpetuate? It's because we haven't figured out how to recognize the signs, spot the behaviors, or even deal with the situation. So we continue to have this vicious cycle of hiring and firing these types of jerks.
I think the part that's interesting to me is that you mentioned going from being the jerk to being the expert jerk, jerk expert. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that part well. It was a really neat turn of phrase that you had earlier.
Yeah.
I guess from my perspective, though, this evolution is also not that common. So
Mm.
I'd like to learn a little bit more about the self awareness, the
Yeah.
journey that you took from jerk to trying to influence others not to be, because that to me, if we could unlock that for folks,
Yeah.
that's magic.
Well, Jamie, all it did was almost cost me my job, right?
Well,
That's
yeah, for sure.
that lack of
Absolutely.
self-awareness. That was the only that was the only thing that could have happened. But um what happened was I graduated from college, right? When I graduated from college, I graduated with honors. I was extremely proud about that too. And when I graduated, I got the very first job that I applied to. So I'm thinking, like, you can't tell me nothing. Like,
I mean, yeah.
I got honors, I got the very first job, people want me, I got it all. But when I got that first job, I was assigned a mentor to help me do that job. But see, because my ego was in the way, I couldn't, I don't know, my ego became my amigo is what I tell people. I thought it was my mentor trying to tell me how to do my job, how she would correct me, how she would, um, you know, do certain things for me. I'm thinking that she's doing my job for me. So not even after the first few times we worked together, I said, look, I can do this. I don't need your help. All right. Thanks, but no thanks. And she looked at me, she was like, fine, have at it. And I didn't realize this, but my work suffered. And the reason why I knew that my work suffered is because my boss told me. He said, Eric, I just walked by your desk and you've got a stack of paperwork like almost as tall as you. All right. Like, what is going on here? This isn't why we hired you. People are talking about you. They don't want to work with you. What's going on? And so he told me quite frankly, he said, look, if you can't turn things around now, I'm going to have to let you go. And from someone such as myself who was on top of the world, I had a crash landing, like in record form, because I thought that I had it all together. Honestly, hindsight of 2020, I thought that school success, what I learned in school, how I excelled in school, I thought that was the through line, that was going to translate into work success. And it
Yeah.
didn't. And I
Yeah.
felt flat. I was not prepared for it. And right before my boss gave me my walking papers, he said, I want you to attend this emotional intelligence course. And I'm thinking,
Mm.
what the heck is emotional intelligence? I have no idea what this is. I thought it was an insult at first. I thought they tried to tell me that my emotions were dumb. So I had to develop smarter emotions. But once I took that course, that's where things turned around. That's where I realized how my behavior, how being short and abrasive and condescending and just taking things personally wasn't helping. It was damaging relationships, people who had my back, who wanted to help me. And so that's how I became that jerk expert. That's how I became that person who was, I was a expert jerk at that time. And a lot of it is because I didn't know I was that person.
Mm.
Yeah. It's the crash landing of the high achiever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
used to work for a company that one of the main channels of talent that we would get would be from recruiting from Ivy League schools,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so they're spent your life in the 99th percentile to be in a group of people who did too, right?
Yeah.
So now you've got to go from thinking that your thinking is perfect to thinking you might be able to pull something someone else's great thinking. And woo,
Yeah.
woo, never had to do that before. That's hard.
Humbling. It's humbling. It's a humbling
It is.
experience. And I would say some people who, especially business leaders out there, especially when you have, whether you're a C-suite or whether you're a leader in HR, sometimes if you're responsible for managing change, if you're responsible for change management or helping your organizations thrive during different types of situations, I mean, you have to be able to set the tone. But if you yourself don't know how to work with people, like you're going to be ineffective and you're going to hurt that culture. And right now, culture is where a lot of the effort, a lot of the focus that I see has been people have been paying more attention towards the culture because of how the churn rate can be so high in different organizations. And so your HR companies or business leaders don't have that in mind, the importance of building relationships, people are going to leave left and right. That company's not going to thrive.
So, Eric, you get to talk to all walks of life at all levels within organizations. When you think about where leaders are today, where do you see their biggest challenge that they're underestimating for their work, for their teams, for their departments? Where do you see the biggest challenges leaders are underestimating right now?
Right now, I think people are underestimated. I think HR and other organizations, they are underestimating the type of what employees are looking for right now in the workplace. They are looking for more flexibility. They're looking for people who understand workplace dynamics and are allowing people to are removing some of those filters of what it means to actually be an employee. That sense of
Mhm.
empathy,
Mhm.
where empathy is just lacking in the workplace. That's why a lot of reasons why people are leaving because they don't feel seen, heard, and they don't feel valued at all. And so now it's transactional. You
Mhm.
see a lot of times where people are just like, let me just get what I need out of this. It's not, well, let me help the company. It's let me get whatever it is that I need out of the situation because this is how they see me. They see me as an employee. They see me as a number. They see me as a figure. They want me to boost their bottom line. Well, I'll treat them as such because they're going to help me out. And so
Mhm.
I don't know about you all, but I don't know if that is a thing anymore where people are so invested in the organization itself that they want to go above and beyond. They want to work longer and harder, for the good of the agency or the company. Now it's just like, well, let me just make sure I get paid. Let me do what I need to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's how I think it's because when people are onboarded, when people have that onboarding experience,
Mhm.
when they're not prepared, when the organization is not prepared to carefully onboard them into the organization, I
Mhm.
think that's where the culture gets damaged, and that's where people start leaving left and right. That's where things become
Yeah.
transactional, like I was saying before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guess one
So,
of the things, sorry, Molly, go ahead.
go ahead.
I guess one of the things that stands out to me is, at least in my experience, people dismiss their negative impact of being a jerk through the lens of, yeah, but things are really stressful, right? Like, here are the here are all the reasons that you should excuse that I was a jerk
Yeah.
Yeah.
based on what's going on at work. So I'm curious, in high stress situations, what is a practical solution that you would recommend for individuals who may have a tendency to show up like a jerk?
Yeah, I definitely have one, which is probably one of my favorites. One of the ones I'm actually going to be teaching about pretty soon in one of my upcoming training classes, one of my upcoming programs. And it's called the Triple A method. And it stands
Mm,
for Assess, Analyze, Act. And this is my 3-step process for diffusing tense situations, mitigating conflict. But what we all can relate to and most notably helps avoid those knee-jerk reactions that we sometimes get when we're under pressure, when our emotions get the best of us. Sometimes we act without a filter. So this 3-step process, it really puts the guardrails up, and it helps you assess what's going on inside your body. All right. Because a lot of times when we're stressed out, when we're dealing with conflict, our body tells us this. All right. Our heart could beat fast. Our palms could get sweaty. We can furrow our eyebrow. We can clench our jaw. I don't know about you, but my back is really tense sometimes. And sometimes I'm like this. I'm because I'm so tense. And I don't realize it until I have to go to the chiropractor the next day. But
Mhm.
when you're able to assess what your body's telling you, then you can analyze why that's happening. And once you analyze what it is, you could be stuck in traffic, you could be gaslighted by another employee or another colleague. You could just be in a conflict situation with someone who just doesn't get you. But once you're able to analyze, only then can you act, which really means you take a step back. So you can take a more measured approach and respond more thoughtfully. Uh, let's be real. How many times have you just acted abruptly when you were in a tense situation? More than likely, you probably made a bad situation worse. Yeah, exactly. You don't
Yeah.
even have enough hands to count, right? I mean, that can definitely happen. And so you can make a bad situation worse, but see, this 3-step process, assess, analyze, act, it puts the guardrails up and keeps you from making those abrupt decisions. It helps you process things more clearly under pressure, which is the key. I mean, there's probably plenty of people who've been able to take some conflict management course and understand how to manage conflict. But when you're right in the thick of it, this 3-step process, it really helps you pragmatically and practically respond without making that bad situation worse. And it really helps you get better results too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what do you see, Eric, when um, teams are misaligned and the signals that happen before the results drop? Like, what signals do you have them look for, that a team should look for, that are misaligned, so that they can see those results and acknowledge where the misalignment has happened?
Yeah. So here's the things that I've noticed. The one thing is actually what's not being said, what's not being done. So
Yeah.
you can say this as the disengagement, the lack of engagement, the lack of the curiosity to understand where people are coming from or or why people are feeling a certain way. When you see people who are just checked out, don't even care about what's going on, that is a number one signal right there, because that shows you that these people they might be passive aggressive, but most importantly, they're disengaged. And so there's things that are going on behind the scenes, and by the time you want to do something about it, it's too late. The friction can't be addressed. Um, situations have been worse. Um, products have failed. Projects have not gotten done. Another thing is when you have leaders out there who fail to take advantage of having those one-on-one conversations with employees. When you fail to build that into your standard operating procedures or your way of doing business, when you're not getting that feedback and you're not trying to build that connection through those one-on-one conversations, and you're not having that safe environment where people can actually have that dialogue and explain what's going on, when those things are happening, though, when those things aren't happening, those are triggers where there's friction that hasn't been uncovered. And by the time you get involved, by the time you try to do something about it, that person's probably already leaving. They probably um, created so much toxicity that it's definitely other people are being affected by it, and they're drinking the Kool-Aid, they're doing the same thing. So now they've created alliances. And so what happens is you've got a
Uh,
swath of people who are just on one side and other people on the other side, and now you've got workplace toxicity, and it's going to take so long to try to fix that because you haven't invested in those conversations. You haven't had a safe environment where employees can add value and share their concerns and their ideas. There's no diversity of thought. So those are some things that I would say that's not happening that probably should be happening. And that can cause those kind of that workplace friction and that workplace toxicity.
I think there's also a residual cost to the organization because, especially if the jerk's in leadership, because you've got people who are working really hard to grow their career. They finally get into that position, and the mental model they had for what that's supposed to look like and how you get results is using techniques or approaches that got them to do things, right? And it was high pressure and condescension and insults and public shaming and lots of blame, right? Like those kinds of things would pop up. And so whenever you get into that position, now you are modeling that versus challenging that and saying there's other ways to be able to get stuff done, right? It's like this, you might even address the one person, but the ripples that they've created can be very challenging.
And then that person in that same scenario, Jamie, that person, that leader who acts like that, who's adopted those same kind of behaviors, they'll say, "Well, this is how I learned. Look at me. Look, this is how I got to where I am.
I'm out here. Yeah,
Right?
look at me.
That's
I'm out
how
here
you
flying high.
Yeah, that's how you
Yeah.
all should do it. That's how we all should do it." And then they try, and sadly, they lead by example.
Yeah,
And that is
absolutely.
that is probably one of the number one reasons why there's so much workplace toxicity. Culture is terrible in many organizations, and those people, to their I don't want to say to their credit, but I would say, to be fair to them, sometimes they're unaware. They think that that's the most effective way to get anything done.
Yeah,
And
that guy got
it's
promoted 3 times.
right, and it's not like that employee, the person who's working for them, is going to say, Jamie, there's a better way that you can handle that. I mean, sometimes they're probably going to say, they're probably going to think, I'm not going to tell this person, I need this job. I'm not going to bring this to them.
That's right.
Right? It's either going to be someone that they trust, that they like, know, and trust, that's maybe a family member, to say, hey, this is how you're acting, but it's not going to be an employee. So they can go years, decades, if not, they may never even know how their behavior impacts other people. And that's what makes things so difficult with workplace dynamics, especially when you're dealing with leaders who behave in that way as well.
So you gave some really cool advice for the people who have a tendency to be the jerk. Let's talk for a second to the people who are living with the jerk. Not at home. I'm not talking about like that. I'm talking about like at work. So you've got people who don't really do much to ruffle the feathers out of for the sake of being kind, for the sake of being compliant, for the sake of keeping peace, right?
Yeah.
What are the recommendations that you have for those folks?
That maybe should speak up when they don't.
Or they're subjected to the jerk in some way, shape, or form, either from a leader or a coworker.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is something that I've learned how to do and helped me when I was on the other side, when I was actually working for a boss who was a jerk, who completely threw me under the bus and humiliated me. And I didn't know what to do. So one of the things I learned, which was extremely important, and there's 2 things I want to share. The first thing is the power of managing up. The power of managing up, a lot of people might be familiar with it, but some people are afraid or maybe not realize just how powerful it can be, because it shows that you're proactive and that you are trying to address a certain situation, a certain workplace friction. There's certain ways, I would say maybe politically correct ways that you can address a situation without saying, hey, there's more tactful ways that you can convey how to communicate certain things if someone is acting up, especially if it's coming from a boss and you want to make sure that you're not being disrespectful, you're preserving your job. But if you need something from that boss that to help them, you do your job much more effectively, and you can explain why, you can articulate that, well, now you've created a business reason for that leader to want to comply. So if, let's say, if that business leader is poor at communicating, they don't give you clear guidelines or instruction on how to do something, well, that's an opportunity for that employee to be able to explain what it is that they need in order to get that job done in that what they've shared with them, whatever those instructions are, there's some clarifying questions that you might need in order to do that. Sometimes when people do try to ask those clarifying questions, some people might be hesitant because they may think that, well, I don't want to seem incompetent. I should just, assume that I know the answer. But in actuality, you are actually operating from a standpoint of confidence because you know that you can do the job if you had clear instructions. So being able to be confident in your ability to ask those clarifying questions and manage up to someone who's in a position of leadership, I think is one way to go. Another thing that I would say is that oftentimes people make this mistake of, well, if I do this, this person won't stop being a jerk to me. This person will stop their behavior. If I do whatever it is that they want, I'll get them to comply. We spend so much energy in trying to get someone to stop their behavior, how they respond to us. But I'm here to tell you that is an uphill battle. That is something that people are capable of changing, but sometimes they don't. They still stay stuck in their ways. You can be the nicest person towards them, and they'll say, okay, well, thank you, but I still need you to do this. I'm still going to be short. I'm still going to be abrasive. So instead of trying to spend all that time and energy to get someone to stop their behavior, their jerkish behavior, you got to focus on what you can control, which is yourself and your response to those situations. And if you can manage your response to those situations, I love it. When you can manage your response to those situations, then you're not taking the bait, you are taking the high road, and you're still preserving your dignity, and you're still staying calm, cool, and collective under pressure. And that's really what you want to do.
I like to tell people be in this world, not of this world. And did you feel the dopamine hit when you saw the clock hit? You see what I'm saying?
I
Like
did.
it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing, Eric.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to show my kids. Good job today. All right.
That's right. I see you.
I see you.
Um, so yeah, I think it's pretty phenomenal because here's the thing. All of us have worked with people who have been jerks to us. And sometimes the way they've been jerks to us makes us write our stories about who we are. And that it's so unfair.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
worked with people that you're like, you've been carrying that around for like 10 years because that person was such a terrible human to you
Yeah.
when you were trying to do great work. How unfortunate. And people carry those scars, I think, as long as they do. Sometimes they're large life traumas, right?
Yeah,
You don't even know the
I
fire
agree.
you are starting by
Yeah.
treating people that way.
Let me just tell you just a very quick story. So, a while ago, maybe a few years ago, I was hosting some people over for a barbecue, and I had my book that was, on the table, and someone walked up to me and they said, "Someone must have really pissed you off to be able to write that book. What happened?" It wasn't like, "Oh, you wrote a book. This is cool. Oh, I like the title. This and that." It was like, "No, somebody
Said,
must
give me the tea.
really." Yeah, they must have really gotten to you. What happened? And we just had a whole conversation about it. But you're right, though. I mean, part of the reason why I wrote that book is, through my experience. But you're so right. We can have that trauma, and it can govern how we respond to any kind of situation, whether you're in the work environment or you're at home talking to your spouse or to your kids. It can really shape how you handle those conversations. And sadly, that is the truth. It is something that that you don't want to see happen. You
Yeah.
you really don't. But sometimes it can be unfortunate, especially if I haven't been able to talk to them and help them out, or if they haven't had a chance to read the book as well. So
That's right. That's right. In the absence of the book, what would they do?
100%. Yeah. That's
exactly.
100% right. So where can they get your book? Where is it available?
Yeah, so my book is available on Amazon. You can get it there. And if anyone is interested in a signed copy, all you got to do is shoot me an email at ewilliamson@taylortrainingsolutions.com, and I'd be happy to gift you a signed copy.
Jim's going to put your
Nice.
email in the show notes so that people can reach out. That's amazing. What can you tell us again? What's the name of your book?
Yes, it is How to Work with Jerks. Getting
Yeah, so
stuff
easy.
done with people you can't stand.
I love it. Love it.
So, Eric, if you could give one piece of advice to leaders that are navigating growth or change, what would it be?
I would say that anyone who's navigating change, if they want to be successful at doing that, success or navigating change isn't based on, a change management initiative, isn't based on training, isn't based on your bottom line. It's based on the relationships that you build.
Mhm.
And so if you focus on building relationships, that's how you're going to be able to achieve that change management. You're going to be able to thrive. You're going to be able to succeed in the workplace. It's through the relationships that you build. So focus on building those relationships so that way you can work with anyone.
I think that's incredible, Eric. Thank you so much for joining us today. The thing I'm left with and the impression I'm left with as a leader is, and I'm just going to share this in case it's something that other leaders need to hear, and that is have the hard conversation. Imagine where Eric Williamson would be today if somebody hadn't shared with him that the way that he was showing up at work wasn't cutting it, right? That it was having a negative impact on others. Because there are leaders every single day that choose not to have that conversation.
Yes.
That just say, hey, because you're smart, or hey, because you're good, I'm going to let you act any way you want to. And the negative impact that can have both on the leader themselves or the team member themselves is, I don't even know how you would put a number on it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that the leader that you had was like, we got to press pause for a second. I'm going to give you a tool to use.
Yeah.
I want you to go and explore some more about yourself, try to figure out why you're showing up this way. And we've got leaders who listen to this podcast who probably need to hear that they've got a lot more control over the situation than they think they do. So
Yes.
thank
that's
you.
right.
Thank you. You're going to clock it, Molly? You gave me some clock
I'll
it.
do it because that is.
Hey.
I got it.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Eric. This is the Workforce Therapy Files, and Jimbo is going to put all of our information in the show notes so that you can find out how to find Eric's book, how you can find out how to contact Eric if you want a signed copy. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to look to Jim. Wait, no, before we go. For our listeners, I would like to also give some quick kudos that's unrelated to Eric for a second, because Molley Ricketts is launching a book today.
Yeah.
And I think we should go ahead and tell people, Molly, about what that book is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks, Jamie, and Eric, for sharing your time with me. She Knows Best is the name of the book, and it's an anthology by 7 total women that speak to their position in leadership or business ownership, a little bit about their experience, and it's a great book just to give someone else the courage and learning how to manage fear into excitement, which are the same emotion, and how they can build upon it for themselves to see their success. So it's a great book. Also available on Amazon.
Oh gosh,
that you
while we're
can
out there
check out.
shopping. Yeah, we got 2 books to
Just go
pick
ahead
up
and
today.
throw that one in there too.
Yes.
I love it.
Thanks, Jamie.
And I'm going to make another connector ring here as well to an earlier episode, because so much of what Eric described also would work really well with one of our prior guests' new book as well. So check out Curiosity Curve by Dr. Deborah Clary, because the ability to stay curious in these moments is a powerful antidote to being a jerk as well. So talk about putting together a development plan for folks. We're out here exploring emotional
3
intelligence. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got all kinds of stuff happening.
Got them all.
So thank you, Eric. I'm going to look at Jim and ask him to close that file.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Workforce Therapy Files. We hope you learned something new, and we're thankful for the time that you spent with us today. If there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, reach out to us. Our contact information's listed in the show notes. Until next time, keep your head up.